Hey guys, so I have another review for you today. It is over The Last Little Blue Envelope by Maureen Johnson. This is the sequel to 13 Little Blue Envelopes. Now, I recently saw a comment that stated that this is supposed to be a trilogy. If you guys happen to know if this is supposed to be a trilogy, I would like to know, because I was under the impression it was just a duology. So, this is a contemporary series, and before I get into reviewing a spoiler-free version of The Last Little Blue Envelope, I'm going to do a bit of like a refresher, or here's a bit about the first book kind of thing. We are following Virginia Blackstone, who is a American high school student. Everything's normal until one day she receives a packet of envelopes. The first one stating that her Aunt Peg has died from a brain tumor. She had cancer, and during her time she has written 13 envelopes that were to be given to Ginny upon her death. Now Ginny has received them, and Ginny is given a opportunity by her aunt to go to England and to do some different challenges and adventures that her aunt wants her to do. Now, you can tell from how big this one is that Virginia does decide to go on, and she does head to England, and she experiences a lot of things that most normal high school students don't get to experience, and a lot of situations that she has to go through that her aunt has made sure that Ginny has to go through, and she grows and develops from there. I'm going to stop this little portion here, so then if you guys are interested in 13 Little Blue Envelopes, I highly recommend going and finding a version and reading it. It was very well done. So now I'm going to go into a spoiler-free review of The Last Little Blue Envelope. So if you haven't read 13 Little Blue Envelopes, please don't continue. You will be spoiled. Sorry. This one picks up right where the last one left off. It is a number of months later, and Ginny is currently working on her last essay so that she can apply to some colleges and universities. She's on Christmas break, and she's only got this one thing to do, which is to write the essay, when she gets an email from a man named Oliver. She recognizes the letter and the writing and realizes he is in possession of her letters. He explains that during his vacation over the summer, he purchased her backpack, and inside were the 13 little blue envelopes. After doing some research, he was able to find her and write to her. And he tells her that if she would like to retrieve her letters, to contact him back, and they can set up a meeting date here in England. Ginny has to decide, is she going to forget about this, or is she going to accept and make another trip back to England? I think you know what she chose. Now, even though this one is a lot smaller than 13 Little Blue Envelopes, there's still just as much content and adventure going on. Now, we're introduced to two new characters. We have Oliver, the man in possession of the 13 envelopes, and we have Alice, who I'm not going to tell you anything other than her name. We also get to see some old characters. We have Keith. We also have Richard, who is the best uncle in the world. Seriously, if I had an uncle like Richard in England, I would go and live with him. I think Richard is a really awesome character, and I love just getting to see him again in this one. And you get to find out a lot more about him in this one, and he kind of takes over the role of where Ginny's aunt played the major role in the first one. Because you don't really experience a lot of parental supervision with Ginny's parents, you kind of saw Richard and Aunt Peg as the adults, and you saw them as the mother figure. And this time Richard really came out and superseded Aunt Peg and became the father figure for Ginny, and I really loved that. Now, the writing was superb. At times it would go a little slower, and at times it would speed up, but it went with what you would be doing if you were on a road trip. Now, I'm not going to give anything else away because I do have some spoilery stuff I want to say. So if you haven't read this, please sign off, and I will see you guys in my next video. Or I'll see you again in this one when you have read it. So let's talk about a couple of key things. First off, I was a little annoyed with Ginny that she didn't figure out that Keith was seeing someone else. And I was really, really angry with Keith throughout the entire book. I don't really care what he had to say at the end. I just felt really annoyed with him because of the fact that he didn't man up and tell Ginny. I don't even think he told Ellis that they had been a thing. And what bothered me the most is the fact that Keith just continued to egg Oliver on, and I just felt like it was really unnecessary. It just felt horrible. At the beginning, when I first met Oliver and I found out he was going to blackmail her, I'm like, oh, this is not good. You know why? Because he's going to play a really important part. Ginny and he are going to fall in love, and you're going to find out he's not that bad of a guy, and he had a really good reason for wanting this, and yeah, it turned out that way. And I didn't see the whole progression. I saw like the little hand gestures or the little pieces of information with regards to their characters, but I just felt like I'd already found out the end before I even made it to the middle. I loved Richard's character. I love the fact that we get to see him more in this one than we did in the first one, and I love the fact that he really shows that fatherly care for Ginny. He really doesn't want anything to happen, but he abided by Aunt Peg's rules in the first one, but because she's back this time, he has no idea about the 13th envelope, I don't believe, but he is wanting to make sure that he can stay in touch with her and make sure that she's all right, because he wasn't too pleased with Aunt Peg not allowing that in the first one, but he understood why. Now, at the end, when you find out Oliver's true background and she and Oliver kind of kiss, I was a little disappointed that she didn't offer him some of that money, because you realize she has more than enough money to afford to go away to school, and basically for a couple years after that, maybe. So I didn't understand why she didn't offer him even half of what the portrait sold for. But I also thought that it was interesting that it didn't take place, because I don't think Oliver, with his character, he would have accepted it. I don't think that would have taken place anyway. The letter with Aunt Peg, I was a little caught off guard when she just stopped it mid-sentence and she never got back to it. But you realize how severe her treatment was, or how severe her cancer actually was, when she read the end of that envelope. And the last one that I wanted to state was at the end, when she goes and asks Richard if it would be okay to stay with him and go to school in England, and he gets misty-eyed and he says that could be a possibility, that she'd always have a room at his house. I was just so touched, because Richard is so sweet, and you just see how Richard and Ginny, they've bonded because of Aunt Peg's death, but they really have connected in a father-daughter kind of position, and I really, really enjoyed that. The way that this book ended, I was a little caught off guard. At first I didn't know how I felt about it, and when I got thinking back, the first one kind of finished the same way. It leaves you thinking of the what-ifs that take place later on, and I realized that Maureen Johnson had a reason for it. I could be mistaken, but this is what I'm thinking. Maureen Johnson ended these books the same way that Aunt Peg would have ended the books. And I thought that it was extremely well done, because Aunt Peg would have left them where you still have some questions and you think, what if? And I really enjoyed that. I actually did enjoy the ending. I think that this was a good ending if it is a duology, because you don't really know what it's going to be in the future, and I'm really nervous that if she writes a third book that Oliver's gonna turn into Keith's character in this one, and I just don't want that. So I'm happy with where this is. I'm happy with the possibilities of what Ginny's future could hold, and I just really enjoyed the duology overall as a series. So if you guys have read these, let me know what you think. Did you enjoy them? What were some things that you didn't like? Because I did have some dislikes, but the positives overruled the dislikes. So I will see you guys in my next video. Till then, go and pick up a random book and read. Bye, guys.